Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Huge shout out to my guy, Chris McGill from Card Ladder, who was on Thursday's episode. Uh, awesome episode. If you missed any part of that, go back and listen. It was just a great episode. This week, a lesson learned for me. Um, I've been talking for a while now about being more active on Facebook groups and IG, just buying more cards. Um, that's just less on public auction sites like eBay and PWCC and Golden, places like that. I'm not saying I don't buy there, but I'm trying to work more undocumented transactions, um, and trying to negotiate better deals. But a lot of times what I'm trying to do is not have the exact sale, especially on graded cards. And I've talked about this a ton of times. I can go back. If I buy a graded card, I'm buying it on eBay or PWCC or something like that. I mean, it's just public. So if I go set up at a show and I throw the card in my case, someone's going to see, oh, you paid exactly this much money for that card. So I'm just trying to get away from that. So cards that I'm going to be bringing to shows and selling and stuff like that, I'm just trying to, just buy more and buy raw cards too, and just have them graded and be the first sale of that particular graded card. Um, so in doing this and being really active in these groups, I have to say, most people in these groups are pretty legit, right? I mean, we if you've been doing it as long as I have, you can spot all the bogus accounts or the people, all the different ways to rip you off. As soon as somebody's like, "Oh yeah, yeah," you negotiate a price. They want to buy something I may have for sale, and a lot of times it happens to me after a show, right? So before a show, I may throw up pictures of cards that I'm going to have at the show, and somebody will message me. And they'll be like, and I'll say, "Look, I'm at a show. If I don't sell it at the show, I'll message you after the show. It's yours." Um, and then I'll get that, "Oh, well, you know, I I give them I'll ask them for, they'll ask me for my, how to send the money to me, like PayPal or something like that." And then they'll be like, "Oh, did you get it?" I'll be like, "No, I didn't get it." They'll be like, "Oh, because it's a business account. I sent you an email." It's just like, "All right, bro, thanks for wasting my time." So a lot of the times, I mean, you if you've been doing this enough, you see a lot of the bogus stuff come by. And a lot of us just aren't going to be ripped off. Like I know myself, I just refuse to be ripped off, especially from people on here. And and as I say that, there are many more who are just totally legit in these groups. And it seems like most of the time it's not through Facebook, but through Instagram that somebody will be sending me a message. Somebody wants to send you a message that I'm not, and right away, if it has to do with a card that I have for sale, I wait for them, some kind of, because people will say, "Hey, I listened to the podcast," or, "I know so and so," or "So and so said you had this card for sale," or "I saw you post this card for sale." So there's something in there that, instead of I just want to buy the card. So, um, but beyond that, I mean, I think there's so many legitimate people, because I just been buying a ton of stuff and haven't really run into any problems. Um, you do run in, yeah, and I want to say there are those who are legit and pretty much stay true to the deal that you're making, but aren't always completely honest, right, about the card that they're sending you. And that's what I want to talk about today. Buyer beware on raw cards. And I've purchased a lot of raw cards recently, a lot of raw cards because I'm trying to, I'm trying to grade a lot of cards. Um, and in my defense, buying raw cards, I always ask the same questions all the time on the card. Does it appear gradable? I mean, that's the first thing. And I understand, people will respond like, I'm not PSA or I'm not, BGS or something like that. And I understand. But I say, hey, look, is there any scratches on the card? Is there marks on the card? Anywhere on the surface? How are the corners? How are the edges? And if you're not sure, take some close-up pictures and send them to me and let me be the judge of it. And a lot of times, people will respond with some pictures, like a trouble spot and like a circle of a trouble spot and things like that. I really appreciate that, and I'm always reaching back out. I appreciate your honesty, right? I may get, hey, no, this card won't gem if you're grading. It could be a 9, but I don't think it'll gem. And then they may tell me why. Or people will say, hey, card looks very gradable, no obvious problems. Here's a couple more pictures. You be the judge. I can't guarantee it's going to be a 10, and I understand that. I completely understand that. But I want to have a shot. If I'm buying these cards raw, I want to have a shot to grade them. I don't want them to show up with a big scratch or a dinged corner or rough edges on the side that immediately I can't do anything but put it in a discount box because it's not going to grade well. People are going to look at it. I mean, I can't grade it, right? People are going to look and say, geez, I don't even think this would be a 9. It'd be like an 8, right? So, and most of the times you get stuck with the card because really, who wants to buy a card? And I'll give you a for instance, a lot of these cards I'm buying are hockey cards, some of these young gun cards that if they're, raw, they may be $20, right? Or $25 or $35 for raw. But if they gem, they could be $150 or $200, right? So there's a lot of reason to buy these cards and try to gem them, and get them graded. But they show up and it looks like it can't even be a 9, it may be an 8. What's the card worth? $3, $5? I mean, it ends up in a discount box and may or may not even somebody may or may not even buy it. So um if I see anything on the card through the picture, I'll say, what is that? Can you zoom in? Can you take a better picture of that? And most people are really good. They'll send a bunch of pictures. They'll send some pictures of the corner. I do that. If I have a card that's for sale that's not graded and I'm immediately putting it up or somebody's asking about it, I will take a close-up picture of all four corners, the front and the back of the card, and then, let them make a decision. And a number of the cards, the deals that I've done, over the last 3, 4 months, 5 months, and I mean, even longer than that, I've been, buying raw cards, but some of them more I've been picking up at shows, but now it's a little different because I'm buying them online from other people. And I've sent them off and, I've had, some gems, some come back 9s, uh, but that was it. Nothing coming back lower than a 9, because you're able just, to look at these cards. So I had a little situation, a listing on Facebook, in a Facebook group for some hockey cards, from a seller from Canada. He had a lot for sale. There were 3 graded cards and 2 raw cards. And one of the raw cards was one of those thick cards, so it's got 8 corners really. And, a lot of those hockey cards like that, they just don't grade well. So I really wasn't that concerned, but the card had a really great patch on that particular card. So there's 3 graded cards. There's that patch card that was great that, I asked him about the grading and he sent me, some pictures on it, but I wasn't that concerned because I think that would be a card that I would never send to grading. But then there was another raw card that it was a Young Guns. I was really interested, and I asked about the raw cards and he said both are very gradable, and he sent a picture of both. And I looked at the picture. I mean, on just the one that I was really concerned with, the centering looked good, the edges appeared good, the corners looked sharp. Um, Nothing was standing out to me. The border of the card was black around the outside, and a lot of those Young Guns cards, they have a lot of black borders. So right away, you look right at it and you'll see white coming through the black. You know right away it's, just the car's not going to grade well. So we negotiate. I get the deal done. The card shipped the next day with tracking, exactly the way you want the deal to go, right? Exactly the way you want it to go. That's what I do when I'm selling a card and somebody buys it from me. I put the package together with the tracking immediately. As soon as they pay, I send it to them. I have a post office, less than a quarter mile away. I drop it off first thing in the morning. That's the way I like to do it. Just get it right out. People feel very comfortable. If you start waiting days before stuff shipped, you start getting nervous, and people start getting nervous on this. I do, and I know other people do. So when I'm doing it, I want to make people feel as comfortable as possible. And when I'm purchasing, I'm excited when somebody gets it right to the post office and gets it going, gets me some tracking. So the package arrives. It's well packaged. All the cards in the package. The 3 graded cards and the 2 raw cards. Go ahead, pull them out and go through them. I saw the thick raw card, kind of put it aside because I was more interested in looking at the other card for grading. And I pull it out, and immediately in the top right corner, there's clearly visible white on the black border, right in the corner. The corner is dinged on this. Top right corner is dinged. And I'm like, what is going on here? Right. So I go back, I pull my phone out, I go back to the pictures, I blow it up, and there's no white. And it may have been the angle of that card, but there was no white on that corner. And I'm like, oh, come on. Right. So I message him and I say, hey, I got the cards, I received the package, but I think you sent me the wrong card. This particular card has visible damage in the top right corner. I mean, I could see white through the black. His response, and I quote, was, "Thanks for letting me know you received the cards. I'm sorry about that card." And he named what card it was. That's my fault for not making you aware of it. Well, wait a minute. You're certainly nice about it, but I mean, I literally asked you those questions. We had this whole thing, and then I went back and I screenshotted the conversation. I sent it back to him. I said, you had every opportunity. You had every opportunity to mention that top right corner of that card. And when I asked you if it was a gradable card, wouldn't you have thought that I was going to grade the card? And then he responded to me, well, you were talking about the other card with the 8 corners that you said you probably wouldn't grade. So I didn't know if you were talking about not grading both cards, that if you really wanted to grade that card. But again, that's on me. I should have made you aware of it. He did everything when on the initial deal, everything not to tell me that card had a little bit of problem in that top right corner. It would have been so easy for him to say something about that card. I was buying 4 other cars from him, and that one card by far was the cheapest card. But the thing with that card is, if it would have gemmed it 10x's, almost 10x's what the current comp is on a PSA 10 on that card. And the reason why is because a lot of those cards came out of the package with white showing through the black on the corners or on the edges. I'm always reading in these Facebook groups, like so many people warning other members about scammers, stay away from this guy. He ripped me off. I should have been smart enough, and, putting people on blast. But this here's a little different. I mean, it's like 95% legit. I felt he probably should have sent me a little bit of a credit on it, but instead of asking for a credit, I messaged him back and just said, bro, you need to be better. You need to be better. Do better. And if you need to be part of this hobby and we're all going to be in this groups doing things, you need to be better. You need to be more honest. You need to tell people, and of the sale that we made, I mean, that card was probably, in the conversion from Canadian to American, that card was probably a $25 card, compared to the other 3 slabs that I bought from him and the other patch card. By far was the cheapest card, and I was getting the cards at about 75% comps. It would have been so easy for him just to just to tell me or admit to me or say, "Hey, that's not gradable. Just leave it out of the deal." For what I paid in the 20 or $25 to drop off. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker, uh, not having this card on there. Um, I said, "Look, I'm not gonna put you on blast for a 20 or $25 card, but you need to be better because the next person will put you on blast, and if you want to, I see you're always posting cards up here on this Facebook group, and I see that you don't post many raw cards there, and I don't know if this is a raw card thing. I don't know if you just don't feel that you should need to tell people, but you do. You need to tell people because when someone like me gets it, we're pissed off. I'm pissed off. Even though it was 20 or $25, you were a little dishonest and I'm pissed off. So I said, "Yeah, man, you just have to do better." And after this, I am not going to drastically change the way I've been doing private deals because 99% of the deals I've been doing have been very good. Um, if I'm spending a decent amount of money, especially on a raw card, which I probably wouldn't do, because I would just be a little nervous unless I knew who I was buying that from, or somebody knew this person. And even then, things get a little dicey. Like if somebody says, "Oh yeah, I know this guy, no problem," and I get the card and I look at the card under my big magnifying glass here, and I like this card's not gradable. Then what? Then I say, you vouch for this guy, and the card's not good, right? So I'd rather just deal with people one on one, and if I've done deals with them before or if I know them, that's fine. But I think, it's okay for me and kind of the little lane that I'm in here to buy these hockey cards that may be, 25 or 30 or 35, maybe even 50 or $60 or 75, right? And then grade them out and hope for the best on them. But I'm not going to be spending, I see people putting some of these raw cards up there for 8, 900, 1,200, $1,500. Um, and I would have to imagine whoever's going to buy this card does not plan on grading it because some of these cards that are that expensive, and I see it and I'm like, wow, that's a great looking card, but I'd imagine it's already been graded before. It didn't grade well. Somebody cracked it, took it out, and now it's selling it raw. Maybe it came back a 8 or an 8.5 or a 7.75, something like that. And now they're hoping to get, 9 prices on it because it's a raw card. And somehow in the hobby, people seem to think a raw card should be priced around the, whatever, a graded 9 card is if it looks really good. Right. Um, and sometimes you just can't. And I mean, maybe that's why I stick to a little bit of a cheaper lane too, because you just don't know. There's other cards that I've gotten from people that I purchased, in that $20 to $50 range that they've sent me pictures. I've looked at pictures and I said, wow, this card looks great. I get it here. I put it under the magnifying glass and I see some things on there and say, I just don't think this is going to make it. I don't think it's going to cut it. I don't think it's worth me sending it out there. So now I'm, end up reselling something like that raw. But if I'm buying enough of them at the right price, it's okay. Um, but again, buyer beware on raw cards because what somebody else may think is in great shape or a gradable card, there's that fuzzy gray area there. My eyes aren't that great. And even when I go to the shows and I look at cards, sometimes I'm pulling my phone out and I'm blowing it up, versus when I have a card here at home, I have a setup here that I can, put it under the magnifying glass and really look to see, how well this card, what the possibilities are for grade for to gem, right? But, there's that gray area when you're buying a card that I may say, "Wow, yeah, that card looks great. Yeah, real clean. Yeah, I think it'll grade really well." And then, you get the card, you're like, "Well, there's a little mark over here, and there's a ding over here, and there's no way I could grade this." So, what one person thinks and sees versus another person thinks and sees could be completely different. Again, buyer beware on the raw cards. I know how tough it is to get good grades because I've been grading tons and tons of cards, and some cards that I think, wow, this there's no way this card doesn't come back with a 10, and it doesn't come back with a 10. And other cards, I'm like, oh man, I just hope it's a 9. I hope it doesn't go down to an 8 on this card. And then the card comes back at 10. I'm like, how did this happen? Um, and I know a lot of people will say, it's the luck of whoever you had that day, that card you could send back 2, 3, 4 times and get different grades on it every time. So I always hope for the best on that. Short episode today. That's all I have for you today. I will be back Thursday. I believe a collaboration episode coming up this week. I'm pretty sure there is. But definitely be back with a new episode on Thursday. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.